Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Thursday, March the 23rd, race number 8 at Oaklawn Park. 3-year-olds going 5.5 furlongs. It's a 2-life allowance with a $100,000 claiming option. Before we take a look at the field, time form USPPs now in DRF PPs. Try them for free when you head to DRF.com to access your usual set of PPs, whether classic or formulator. You'll see the tab for time form US. Click on them, give them a try. Take a look at the pace projector. Play around with the time form US pace figures, class figures, speed ratings, and what have you. Time form US now in DRF PPs on DRF.com. Here's the field for our Thursday race of the day. Please click or scan the QR code for race of the day access on mobile for your free DRF formulator past performances. Mike the 5 Tivy, 9 to 5 on the morning line off a good figure win for trainer Steve Asmussen. It's another running into mischief.
It's going to be tough in here if he can repeat the figure that he earned in his maiden win last time. Dan, that to me was a pretty significant step forward for this horse, but that's what he's been doing right from the start. He was second off the layoff there. He really improved a lot. He's going to be tough if he runs that back.
He did get close to the pace. We'll talk about his trip in a little bit, but as we throw up the time form US pace projector, he may not be right on top of the leaders after the first quarter mile. That honor might go to the 8 Too Much Info, who has shown speed and big speed in his first 2 races. Scanner Moran is quick as well. I think Too Much Info, though, is the speed of the speed. He might clear.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. I think he does have enough speed to clear in here. I do think the 4 has some speed. Whether he's got the quality, to be really effective in a race like this one, I guess, is the main question. But he could come out of there running. And, personally, Dan, I just feel like the favorite Tivy, I just think he's going to be right up there. He's got plenty of speed if they elect to use it.
The number 1 Wild Mule is one of 2 two-time winners in this field. He goes out for the potent trainer-jockey combination of Jerry Hollendorfer and Rafael Bejarano, and he won his first 2 starts at Monmouth over the summer like a pretty promising horse. He hasn't gotten back to those efforts since, but his most recent start, I think we could maybe give him some excuses, Mike. They tried him 2 turns. He got wired on a slow pace. I like him better sprinting, and he gets blinkers, although that's a move that hasn't worked well for Hollendorfer recently.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. I think the thing that bothers me most about him, Dan, I do think, cutting him back to sprint's the right thing to do. Man, dropping back from a mile to 5.5, that's not an easy thing to do, especially for a horse like him, who probably wants to be, within range of the leaders, and maybe he'll have trouble getting there in a race like this as he drops all the way back. That being said, he's got races sprinting that would give him a real chance in here if he shows up and runs this good race.
I mean, in that last race, he earned a pretty competitive figure. The horse that finished directly in front of him somewhat confirmed that number when coming back to run third in a 50,000 now winners of 3 Life with an 81 buyer. The 2 is Warren L, stepping up out of the maiden ranks after a win at Prairie Meadows in Iowa, going 3/4 of a mile back on September the 19th. And Warren L was pretty professional in this race. He sat just off the leaders. He goes after them. He drives on by. This was a much improved effort off of his first 2 starts against fellow Iowa breds, but it's a big step up in class and it's a big layoff he's going to have to overcome.
Yeah, things working against him, but he's got to improve again. But he's still so lightly raced that I think you want to afford him the opportunity to do that. He certainly, not only did he run a faster race there, Dan, but he just showed way more early speed in that race to sort of keep right up with the leaders. And that'll, serve him well going forward if he can continue to run like that as an older horse. I mean, I thought he ran fine in that race. I don't love him in here, but I don't think he's impossible.
The number 3 Jeremy's Jets, a horse Mike and I saw at Saratoga, dominate a field of auction maiden special weights over a muddy track. He won that race as easy as pie, and since then his connections have placed him in some tough spots. 4 subsequent races, 3 of the stakes variety. You could argue this is the easiest spot he's been in since that maiden race.
It certainly is. I had a tough time deciding how good, first of all, how good I think he is, and then whether I feel like this is the right spot for him off the layoff. Then, even the win at Saratoga, he did look good, really winning that race. It kind of seemed like a bad field to me, and the horses that are good in that field are turf horses. They're not dirt horses, which sort of maybe dressed him up a little bit. And I don't know. We'll see what kind of trip he can get in here. I personally feel like he's fast enough to be part of this pace. I just don't know if that will help him in here.
in against Super Chow last time out in the Bowman Mill at Keeneland. And that last race was way back around Halloween time. But Super Chow's come back to win 3 of his next 4 with Beyer speed figures between 81 and 87. The 4 is Scatamaran, and Scatamaran's going to come in from Delta Downs for his first start of the year. He was listed as a vet scratch at Delta on February the 2nd. It's taken him almost 2 months to get back into the entries.
Yeah, there's a lot working against him in that regard. He was competitive a couple of times as a 2-year-old, Dan, but they're not fast races out of town. We'll see how much he can improve here. He's also a horse who, wants to show speed in his races. He's got a speed horse to his inside. He's got speed horses to his outside. It just feels like there's a lot working against him here.
Minnesota bred, started his career at Canterbury, then raced at Delta. The runner-up from his last race down in Louisiana did come back to the board twice against Starter Allowance Company at Oaklawn with Beyers of 65 and 77 respectively. Here's our morning line favorite, the number 5 Tivy, the rare inexpensive son of Into Mischief. Let's take a look at Tivy's maiden wins. Second time LASIK, second time blinkers, second time off of a long layoff, getting back to a fast track. He had a pretty good trip. He was prompting 2 long shots while 3 wide, but once he makes the lead, he puts it away quickly.
Yeah, he wins very easily. A big step forward for him on the Beyer scale. So you can see there's not really that much happening behind him in this race, but he just looked good right from the start. Then they put him right up on the pace. He was in hand. He took over very easily in the stretch and won clear. His race off the layoff, I feel like you just have to look at that and think he really needed that race. The wet track could have been a problem for him too, but he got a similar trip in that race. He just didn't finish at all, and he obviously took a step forward last time.
The number 6 is Major Blue. Now, talk about a cutback in distance. This horse just won at a 2-turn mile. Yes, with the short stretch at Oaklawn Park for Mr. Lucas. Now he's got to cut back to 5.5. I thought he did some good things in this race, Mike. That opening quarter looked pretty quick. 22 and 3. He had to work to get to the lead. He was able to back it down a little bit, but he always found a little bit more to just hold on at the wire.
Yeah, he ran well in here. He did have all the best. After he made the early lead in this race, he was just able to sort of sit in hand on a loose lead. Nobody really challenged him, and he had something left there to hold on through the stretch. It did also look like the runner up there, who's a lightly raced McPeak horse. That horse got very green and might have cost himself a little bit, but still, this horse ran fine. He improved again. Again, I don't love him cutting back from 2-mile races all the way back to 5.5 in a race where he probably can't make the lead, but he's lightly raced. All 3 of his starts are okay.
Another horse that's cutting back in distance, and he has run well going route to sprint in the past, is the other 2-time winner in the race, the number 7, Little Sweet Thing. And Little Sweet Thing was in some tough spots last year. Springboard Mile, the Groovy at Sam Houston over a muddy track, cutting all the way back in distance and did not break well. This horse kicks very hard in the stretch. Turning back in distance, A, he has to avoid a slow start, and B, it'd be nice not to be outrun early if there is not a lot of pace.
Yeah, that the concern for him is just that he gets too far away as he cuts back from 1 mile and a 16th to 5.5. The last time they did try to cut him back from the route to sprint, that's 2 starts back in that Groovy, he just had no speed at all. He was way too far back early in there. He actually made a nice run through this stretch. He got a great ride from Melu Gutierrez. He was able to cut the corner and come through on the rail on the stretch, but he still put in a big finish. I'm concerned that he's going to lose contact with this field again early. That's a big problem for him, but I like him sprinting. He's got races that would make him really hard to beat in here, and he might be a fair price.
He appears to be the best closer in the race. He's 6-1 on the morning line for a very good barn that's overdue. And one of the horses that he faced last time out did come back to win with a 73 Beyer speed figure in an Oklahoma-bred allowance at Will Rogers Downs. We go from a closer to a speed horse. The 8 is Too Much Info. Made his career debut sprinting on turf at Ellis Park and just showed them his heels from the beginning. After that race, he was given a layoff, and he was placed in a tough spot off the bench. On dirt for the first time in a stakes race. He pressed the pace. He tired. It was a muddy track. You can give him plenty of excuses for that start.
Yeah, that's fair enough to do that too. It'll be interesting to see how much money he takes in here, Dan, and then whether he just takes a big step forward in this race. I guess you could say he ran fine in the dirt debut last time. He took a run at the 4-5 favorite on the turn there. He couldn't really get to that horse, and then he just totally gave it up through the stretch and finished last. He did some good things in there. Here's my problem with him. If you're not going to hold that race against him, you judge him off his debut on turf, where he got absolutely loose on the lead without having to work at all against an awful field. I want to say the horses that have run back out of that race so far, I think they're 0 for 24 to this point. Nobody's been any good out of that race at all. So I don't know. I don't want to give him too much credit for that one. At the same time, I don't want to hold his last race against him too much. I don't want to bet him at a short price. So that was my biggest problem with this horse. He's the morning line favorite. I don't want him at a short price.
5-2 on too much info going out for the high profile, high percentage Diodoro barn. Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Thursday race of the day. A little sweet thing, Mike. There's a chance that this pace gets hot. And if this horse can stay within 6 lengths, maybe at the 3/8 pole, 6 to 8 lengths, he's got a big shot from off it.
He's got to keep himself within range this time, Dan. He couldn't do that 2 starts back. I'm hoping this field isn't as tough as that one. Maybe he gets a little bit of a setup. He's not too far away. And then he can make a run through this stretch. I think his good race gives him a real chance in here.
Like the way TV one is made, and this is obviously going to be a tougher spot, not only from a class standpoint, but from a pace standpoint. I think this is a good spot for him in this 2 life allowance, and I think he'll be right there when the field turns for home. That's Mike's second pick. 7-5-1-3 for Mike, 5-1-6-7 for me in your Thursday race of the day, the 8th at Oaklawn Park. Good luck.